right, welcome to Now This Is Podcasting, and this is our third and final part of the Interstellar review. I'm excited to close this one out. We're pretty much just going to pick up with the events following the docking scene and kind of the aftermath of all that, move into the events of the black hole and the conclusion of the film. So thanks for joining us for part 3 of our Interstellar review.
So now I think we want to move into the part where they're going to do that slingshot around the black hole. And I think this is another really good scene that kind of fleshes out more of the relationship with Coop and
the 90% scene
and Dr. Brand.
Yeah.
So they're going to do the pass by the black hole, gain this acceleration. They drop Tarz out because, and that was already their plan, is he was going to kind of drop into the black hole, get the quantum data, hopefully try to find a way to relay it back to Earth so they can have the data they need to complete this equation, use gravity as like a force, like harness it. He's like, okay, ready to detach. And Brand's like, what? And he's like, 90%. Because they talk about like the level of honesty because Dr. Brand probably would have, at this point, they have a strong enough relationship that she would have tried to convince him to stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to kind of avoid that, he keeps that 90% rule that they've established like early in the film. And, you know, he drops away and he's like, Newton's third law, you know, he's like, got to leave something behind.
Yeah, which is annoying. That's not true at all.
That's not the literal Newton's third law is every action has a reaction.
Yeah, but also it's not even necessary that they need to detach either of the landers. The only reason they're detaching Tarz is that so that he can go into the black hole and collect the data. He's not detaching. His detaching isn't necessary because the critical orbit around a black hole, around any body that you're orbiting, is an unstable orbit. It doesn't take a lot of force to, because you can think of it as a very thin rim around a volcano. You know, one step in, you fall in; one step out, and you fall out. And it's very easy to give a little boost of the rocket thrusters, and all of a sudden you are not in the orbit anymore, and you're slingshotted around.
Isn't the point that they're so close though that they can't do that?
Nope, that's not necessary at all because that's not how gravity works, because they already have so much momentum already that they're going into the orbit. You just need a little push, and it's the centrifugal force that's going to suddenly build up more energy. So you have all of this gravity pulling you in, giving you momentum, and that angular momentum needs to be conserved and in the slingshot. So what it does then is that force vector ends up shooting you out. You don't need a lot of rocket boost.
I guess
do that.
Yeah, I guess what I thought, and you know more about this than me. I guess I thought they were going to enter a decaying orbit that would put them in the black hole.
It's the critical orbit. So it's just the thing is they're not inside of it. They're just right on it. So there is a point where they'd be beyond it, but in that critical orbit, there's still plenty. They'd still be building up speed so that they're close to the speed of light, which is also a crazy thing to think about. They're getting close to the speed of light. They have no way of slowing down. So that's another thing about like how they got to Miller's planet is they actually slingshotted around another neutron star to slow them down from Gargantua pulling them towards Miller's planet.
Yeah. So
they have to have that figured out on their way to Edmund's planet, that they're getting slingshotted around almost to the speed of light towards Edmund's planet, and they'll need to be caught by something else.
Do you think
Actually, no. Actually, I think part of why they did slow down is because they were still feeling the gravity from Gargantua, so they slowly slowed down. But they'll still need another slingshot so that she can actually dock.
To me, we talked about this before we started recording. You seem to have more of a scientific pull and interest in this film. I have a very emotional attachment to this film, and which is odd to me because, like I've said before, I love science fiction and I love the science and stuff, and I love the science in this. I just love the relationships and the motivations. I think overshadow all the science in this. So, I mean, they could have even been a little more loosey-goosey with the rules, and I would have still bought into this movie. Jane, do you think, does that kind of knowing the science behind or that line, does that change much for you?
No, I do not give a shit.
I just think it's such a great.
I mean, like it's very cool to know that stuff, and but it doesn't change the way I view the movie at all, and the emotion attachment to it is the point to me in this.
Yeah,
and the science behind it is very cool, but at the same time, like I have no here's science, like it's a movie. Like, I mean, it's not all gonna be right. You gotta let it go sometimes. And, and it's like, it's awesome that you know the stuff, and like that's great, and I appreciate learning it. But it's not gonna detach my affection towards the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't. It does. Yeah, it kind of doesn't change too much for me.
See, it increases it for me because if you've created an even more realistic landscape, then these emotions seem that much more real. These are real people. Like if you've created an entirely believable landscape where, you know, we're dealing with this is absolutely something that would happen in real life. This is absolutely what a person would do in a real life situation. It's that much greater. We're not so concerned about, we don't have to worry about so much whether or not the science is goofy or not. Like it's not pulling us in or out. Like this is the science. This is just, you know, like it's like the difference between a Fast and Furious movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's goofy, it's ridiculous. Like I'm not even hung up on whether or not these characters mean anything because they're driving on a plane.
It's like yeah. No, that's such a good way to
jumping
put
to
it.
another building.
I cannot even begin to become interested in those movies because it's so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But it revolves around something that's supposed to be believable, like an automobile. Like
Yeah.
I understand how
So
those
the first
work.
one is believable.
Yeah, no, I think
The
you're
first
right
Fast
with that.
Furious is actually not a terrible film. I mean, it's not good.
I think it'd be crazy to watch
But-
the first one and the ninth one and then just be like, how did you arrive here?
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
They probably got there through with a car, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
It was probably kind of fast, maybe a little furious.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I agree. I think, yeah, we've said this before. I think the believability of the science makes the whole thing so much more digestible and it makes it so much more real. Like to see this crazy sci-fi story take place wouldn't make sense if it's overdone or the science doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because then you arrive at like a Star Trek, which is the new movies where they're just action films in a sci-fi setting. This is like a real story, but in a sci-fi setting. And it feels real. The characters feel real. Captain Kirk is great. Chris Pine's good in those. None of it feels real though.
Yeah. And it's overwhelming to see a black hole the way that they've depicted it because it is 100% the way it would look. There are some differences about the way it would look with how they played with how fast it's spinning. They slowed this one down and sped it up in a couple places depending on what physics they wanted. But for the look of it, they wanted one that was mostly completely circular. There would be, because of that disc. That disc is called an accretion
disc, yeah.
And it is gas and particles sped up to the speed of light because it's getting thrown around so quickly by gravity. And what it is it's likely a star that was ripped apart millions of years ago.
So real quick, I mean, I don't know fucking shit about black holes, but I did read on Reddit before we did this. If you have an issue with this being a soft black hole,
a gentle
one,
singularity,
which I mean, people don't seem to believe would ever exist. What do you feel about that?
That's weird that they say that because so the thing is that inside of a black hole, there are multiple singularities. And a singularity is a point in space where matter has been infinitely compressed so that it's not actually matter anymore. We don't know what happens because you're talking about quantum gravity at that point, which we have no idea. The rules of quantum mechanics and special relativity do not coincide. We cannot make them work together. We have no idea what unifying theories there are. Our closest guess is like string theories. The best one being a superstring theory called M theory, that it connects all of the working string theories as well as uniting all of the forces. But what's weird about it is it needs a minimum of 11 dimensions to work. So,
Jesus.
yes. So it's possible. So
we're barely working on 3 here.
Yeah. So it would, in that sense, there would be 3 space dimensions, 1 time dimension, and 7D hyperspace. One of those hyperspace dimensions could possibly be on the macro scale, like that brain that we were talking about earlier, where the bulk beings are passing through a 5th dimension. But it's more likely that they exist on a microscopic quantum level, and it's just things folded up
That was
inside
like
of
6
top of
micros?
themselves. Yeah. It's very small. It's not something that we're probably ever going to notice. But the only way that all of these things work together is if it's they're hidden in other places.
Do you think of Gargantua as a character within this film?
I think of it as a set piece.
Okay.
It's more of a set piece. But so to your point about a gentle singularity. So what happens is when things fall into a black hole, you have a singularity of infalling material. And if you are moving fast enough through that singularity, you're not going to feel the tidal forces. And tidal forces are, we were talking about like with Miller's planet, feeling that. So what a tidal force is it's a differential gravity force. So if imagine a really long rod, it would feel a different gravity at one end than it would at the other, right? Because as you get closer to a massive body, the gravity increases. So if this rod is long enough that it feels one force at one end and a greater force at the end closest, it's going to get stretched apart and spaghettified.
Isn't that called spaghettification?
Yeah.
That's the kind of the prevailing theory that
That's
if you
fucking
fell,
tight.
Isn't that a cool term?
Yeah,
If you
it's
fell
cool.
into a black hole, you'd be spaghettified. I think that's a
I
great term.
think you've like talked to me about this before. The spaghettification,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah,
It just sounds like such a non-scientific term, but that's like kind of the prevailing term.
It
that's
is,
used.
yeah. That is the sciencey term for
Yeah,
it. But
it just sounds so goofy.
So the reason he says that there's a gentle singularity, and because Gargantua is an old black hole, is that singularity. So if Coop flies through it quick enough, it's gonna be a really the difference between the tidal forces aren't gonna exert force on him in such a way that it would pull him apart. He would go straight through it theoretically, and so he would be in between the infalling singularity, the outflying singularity, and then there's an unstable singularity at the center of the black hole. So in the film, he is between the first two singularities.
Can you tell us real quick, you had, before we started recording, you talked about kind of the distance of what like Saturn and Earth would be compared to the center of the black hole. You compared it to like New York streets.
Yeah. So if you imagine the distance from Earth to Gargantua being the distance from New York to Perth, Australia, then Saturn is 2 blocks away from the Empire State Building.
Because it's the way it's shown in the film is like it's kind of like this. That's why I asked you if you think of it as a character, because it's kind of ominous in the background. It always plays a role in every decision that's made. So that's kind of why I kind of like to think of it as a character, because it's kind of this omnipotent force that is always in the back of everyone's mind.
I suppose. I don't see it quite as a character.
Do you think about that?
I see it as a prop or a set piece. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
I just
not that I like would.
I just like that its
Crazy.
presence plays such a role.
Yeah, and it does. It's huge. It's a massive thing.
Yeah.
And the way it's actually pictured, so that ring around it, how the whole thing, it looks like a planet with a spinning disc, right? That ring around the top edges is actually the accretion disc.
Yeah.
It's the back side of it getting wrapped around visually by the gravitational lensing. And if you actually look at some of those images, there are like stars off on the right. So if you imagine the black hole covering one of the stars, the light rays.
Calvin just pulled out like a chart and a sheet for us to help make this
That's
easier.
in the YouTube link.
We can add that in.
Yeah, maybe not that one, because this guy's talking about liquid gravity.
But I'm saying this is how serious you're taking the science in this. You brought a little chart to help us out. I love it.
It's very difficult to talk about otherwise. But so basically, you can think of all of the photons extending radially from a star, and so they will go out and they will hit different parts of Gargantua and get warped around it. So you will even have ones that go out. They're not towards Gargantua, because the gravity is so strong, it'll get pulled here, and you'll actually see this star in different places on the sky because of how the photons are being warped by the time space.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you're on this to help kind of explain it better. because I can just look at it and just think it's visually cool. And I'm taking physics, but I'm not like good at physics at all. And I love that you're here to kind of break it down in a digestible way, because it is amazing, and it's amazing that they took the time to apply all of this science into the film. Like,
it's been about 8 years since I've been in physics class.
Yeah,
no fucking idea what's going on. So.
Yeah, I love this stuff, and I always I try and get into it as much as I can, but I forget some of its stuff. So it's each time I come back to it, it's like, oh yeah, I remember this term. I remember what the Schwarzschild shield radius is, and I just need to refresh what some of this is. But so just the way that it's pictured it's just mind blowing. That would be what we would see when we would get there. It would be that amazingly amazing and ominous, and yeah, it's just crazy to think about. It's also technically
it's awe-inspiring. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing to see on the screen. Like it's a black hole in a way that I think we're not used to seeing it, but it's like an accurate depiction of it, and the accurate depiction of it is more awe-inspiring than kind of the sci-fi kind of idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy too is because that accretion disk is they described it as being anemic. It hadn't been fed by a star in probably about a million years. So it was the temperature of the sun. So it was the sun for that system, for Miller's planet and for man's planet.
Isn't that the idea of like a...
And he just goes right into that motherfucker, huh?
Yep.
Isn't that the idea that the only stars that could produce a singularity are your very massive stars? Like a
red star?
A star the size of the sun, like our sun, Sol, wouldn't be able to produce a black hole. It just doesn't have enough. It's not dense enough. It's not mass enough.
Right.
And so it would have to be.
I'm pretty sure.
Are blue stars the bigger stars or red stars the bigger stars?
I want to say that red stars are larger,
and then blue stars are hotter.
Yeah, I think those are the ones that turn into your neutron stars.
Yeah, because they're more dense and But I know
it's been a minute, dude.
I know that there's.
They seem to be up on it.
I don't want to say it's a concern, but I know people look at Betelgeuse, which is like one of the largest stars that we observe a lot. Because it's pretty close, but it's the idea that it's big enough that it could form a singularity, which is kind of funny because it's like 160 some light years away.
Yeah, so you're talking about like hundreds of thousands of, and possibly millions of years for it to even get to that point.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's also not something that's going to destroy us.
It's just a cool thing to think about. Like this star could have already begun its supernova and collapse. And we're not going to know for 160 years. Like it could happen today, and we wouldn't even know. That's why I love this movie, because I just have this fascination with space.
Yeah,
and that's why for me this movie just hit all the beats for me, and because it's so heavily influenced by real science, it just matched everything I wanted to. Yeah. So we rambled a little bit there.
Well, so I did want to mention. So speaking of solar masses, do you know what they set the mass of Gargantua to?
I have no idea.
It's 100 million solar masses.
That's incredible, considering if you put that into terms of like Earth compared to the mass of the sun.
Right.
The Earth is nothing compared to our own star. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this is, what did you say, 100 million?
100 million masses.
That's incredible.
One. Yeah.
That's so like, it's so heady, and it's so hard to even like grasp what that even means. Like it's so hard to even put that into a scale that like I can understand.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I love, I just love space, and just, there's so much happening, and it's on a scale that is so unexplainable in a way. It's like it uncomprehendable in a way. You can explain it, but it's just like, how do you actually wrap your head around it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And this movie,
we've barely stepped into the backyard.
Yeah. This movie just tackles
Instead, we're
so
sending
much.
cars into our atmosphere.
Yeah, super fun, huh?
Oh Lord. Okay, so
we
I want to
worry about taking care of the atmosphere before we send cars out there.
I agree with you, and we have some points to make about like the corn and kind of the way that is. Okay, so Cooper is now, he's dropped off again. I said it's a really cool emotional scene to me between him and Dr. Brand when he drops off, and I love he kind of just has this like monologue, just this external speaking. He's just like kind of recording as much as he can while he's in the ship falling into the black hole.
Yeah, and part of that is the time dilation, because the way it'll look from an outside observer, he'll never actually cross the event horizon from her perspective, because time slows down so much as it approaches the speed of light right there, which is just fascinating to think about. Like, he'll just keep talking, and the delay from when she'll keep getting these messages will be further and further.
I never even thought about that.
Because it's just that, it's like, even just in that small space, because it's in inverse square, the closer he gets, the more exponential that the time shifts.
She hears him on her ship for a little bit.
Yep, for a little bit. And then once he gets to just before the event horizon, we don't really know.
I like the way the score picks up back, and he's like falling.
But yeah, he's actually going through the first singularity.
Yeah,
and that's what all of that is. That dust and matter being collected.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That just enhances this movie more, Calvin. You're making me like it more. He's on the other end of the bookshelf that is Murph is convinced is a ghost.
Yeah. So that is a Tesseract.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the way it's depicted. It's just like, and he can travel through it. He can interact with it. I think this is a part of the movie that lost a lot of people, because this is now you've entered the realm where there's no real science to explain this.
That's not true.
Oh.
That's what's fun about this. This is a real, very speculative, plausible thing.
Anything's plausible. You know nothing about it,
except it's built on actual laws that we have.
That there could be bookshelves inside of black holes.
That the Tesseract is a 4-dimensional space that, when you travel into the Tesseract, what it does is it warps space so greatly that he's actually falling. The distance then would only be from Gargantua to Earth would be the distance between the Earth and the Sun. So as he's falling, he's literally falling that distance, and that's how he gets there, because the space is warped inside of the Tesseract. That 4th-dimensional brain then gets shifted up to here, and he actually travels to Earth through the Tesseract because he's in the 4th dimension, the 4th spatial.
I sort of kind of throw this. I don't throw it away. I throw away the science surrounding it, because I sort of just think it's like the bulk beings built this kind of structure inside the black hole, and it just, on a surface level, just makes sense enough for the story to continue the narrative. I never thought about it as like a way that he's actually traveling back, because time and space have warped and changed so much within this like infinitely dense.
Yep, that's why he actually goes back, because time is warped in the space is warped in such a way that it's just like time dilation in the black hole. He's actually going to what is the current time in the Tesseract on Earth.
Okay.
So that's why it's only.
I always kind of wondered the connection between that. I just sort of wrote it off as like it just needs to be in the movie to push the narrative forward.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful.
But it's nice to get a kind of a better picture of it. And I love the way it looks too. I like it's like the bookshelf, but then it has like all these lines kind of bleeding off of it.
Time tubes is how Kip described them. They're literal extrusions of the object through time, and that's what he's plucking when he pulls on the when he puts the Morse code into the watch. Yeah.
So I want to know, Jaden, what is your opinion on the? So he realizes he can interact with this, like dimension that he's in. He can interact with the bookshelf in front of him, and if that doesn't happen, then this movie makes no sense. If he can't have this scene, do you think it works for this film? Like, because I don't think the film works without it. He uses this to communicate with Murph in the past, but like, do you think did this movie lose you during that? Because that's kind of a complaint I hear.
Intrigued me a lot during this. I don't think the movie works without this scene or without this concept. I think it's kind of the point of the film. I think it's great. I think it's fucking super weird and it's super original. You're not going to see another film do this, or have seen another film do this before this. And yeah, I think it's amazing. The way it looks is amazing. I'm big fan of this part.
Yeah. And I love too, just thinking about so if you think about a cube, and he's existing on the 2-dimensional face of the cube, but sending forces through the 3-dimensional cube. So that is what's happening here in the Tesseract. He is in a face of the Tesseract. All of this is a face because it's the 3-dimensional area of the Tesseract. And what he's doing is he's exerting a force, a gravitational wave through the fourth dimensional bulk, and that's going back in time because it's the same time in this the way that space has been warped. And this is when he's pounding on the books. This is the part that really gets me. This crazy visual, all of these emotions, this futility, it feels like, of a life unlived, purposeless. It's all right there, and in a completely disorienting place. He doesn't know where he is, why he is, all of these things.
It's so good, and I keep saying, like, this is Matthew McConaughey's best scene. This might be Matthew McConaughey's best scene too. The books fall off the shelf. That's when he realizes that I can interact with this area.
And then he realized that he has interacted with.
I love that Tarz shows up.
Me too. I'm a big fan of that. Okay, so just real quick, I was reading fan theories on Reddit about this movie before I came over, and I just read so many about the fifth dimensional beings that were literally exactly just what Matthew McConaughey says they are.
That's not a theory. He
I
says
was
it.
like, did you guys not watch the fucking movie? What the fuck? He's like, I'm pretty sure there's people from the future.
He says it
Yeah,
in the
I
film.
was like, that's what he says. Like, what are you guys fucking talking? Did you guys stop watching? It's like, oh, he got this part. I guess the movie's over. Just turn it off. Like, what happened here?
That's not a theory. That's a literal statement within the film.
I'm telling you, there was a multiple like paragraphs of like why they thought this. I was like,
okay, don't go to Reddit for a review on this movie. Listen to our podcast about it. That's terrible.
It was ridiculous, dude. I was like,
that's like someone being like, I think they go to space in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
literally.
fucking duh.
Yeah, like, hot take, I think the dialogue is real.
Like, so I think it might have been. So, like, to be honest, I literally think it might have been the guy who was sitting next to you in Green Knight.
Oh my God, who's the guy who's never seen a movie in his life?
He might have just watched this movie before we did this.
And then he made 100 posts on Reddit about it.
The other plausible thing is that he's been in quarantine for the last 15 months. He just doesn't know what people are.
Yeah, oh my God. Dude, that'd be amazing.
It was just silly that I saw. I was like, dude, McConaughey when he says these exact same things in the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I should have gotten that guy's number and asked him to be like, can you be a guest on our podcast?
So just
please,
talk shit about him.
Please come over and just, I want to experience a movie the way you experience it. Because this is
why is everything
mind.
So amazing to you?
Right.
I'd love to hear him watch Interstellar. Like, I just think, like, even seeing corn.
Oh, corn? Yeah.
He's just like, wow. Wow, corn. Wow. That dude is fucking wild, man.
Okay, continue with your point if you can remember.
Yeah, so I was talking about I like the interaction with Tarz and kind of the realization that Cooper has that he can interact with this space, and that's when he starts kind of pushing the bookshelves out to stay.
Stay, yeah.
Even if you're not on board with kind of this like weird kind of sci-fi experience that's going on right now where he's inside of a black hole and he's pushing a bookshelf, the emotion behind all these is so amazing.
Yeah. No, Matthew McConaughey really shows his chops here.
Jessica Chastain's Murph, I think talking about it more, I've kind of discovered it's maybe not the best performance or best written character. I just think she has a great start to that timeline of Murph and a great finish to it that it makes the whole thing so cohesive to me.
Yeah, and that's fair. I just think it works better as dialogue within Matthew McConaughey's head. Because right there, like right when she's discovering the watch is honestly like, it's unreal to me that Christopher Nolan wrote that. And I was like, yeah, this is plausible. I'll set my brother's field on fire and just give him a big old hug, telling him Dad came back. Look at his watch. It's here still. And
this
he's
is
gonna
this
save
movie
us. Because he obviously doesn't think she's batshit crazy.
This is this movie pretending to be a lot smarter than it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is. And yeah, we've mentioned it before. This is Christopher Nolan. I love what you said. He's like the frat boy of high concept films. It's like,
or no, I would say he's a frat boy's idea of high concept films.
Right.
Because I think he's a really good director, but there are some things that are a little wonky with him. But that's what makes
just
like
deceiving that you think you're watching a Green Knight. You think you're watching a ghost story. You think you're watching a Midsummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
you're
not
like real auteur type
this
stuff.
This is a Michael Bay movie with the the concept and intelligence turned to the max.
Yeah, with less boobs.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think that so we can talk about the burning corn now finally, because I know you guys have a lot of issues.
Yeah, oh my gosh, we have so many issues.
Okay, so Christopher Nolan grew 500 acres of corn for this movie. To fucking do what, Calvin?
To burn it in a movie talking about the sins of excess.
Yeah.
Our planet is dying in this movie, and they're like, yeah, this fits thematically. Like, I'm sure it's not the real movie. We can burn 500 acres of corn.
Yeah.
No big deal. And just to watch that happening, like, in real life. Like, how are you, like, talk about a movie that's not aware of itself.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So he also ended up selling the corn that was left
say,
over. He did not just like give it away or get rid of it. He sold.
He should have given it away.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm fucking making money off what corn I have.
Oh my gosh! They came in under budget by like $10 million too. What did he make off of that corn? He probably bought himself like a really nice coffee.
He's got to recoup the loss wherever he can. I agree with you, and it's something I had not thought about in the film at all, because I always watch this and I am just completely in the context of the film. I don't think about anything else but what's on screen. Mm-hmm. But that is so poignant to say. Is like it is a movie. It's all about like, how do we conserve our resources? And then she burns them. There's actually in the special features, there's a whole bit about kind of the propane setup they had to burn it, because it's not even like they don't just set it on fire. It's like a whole pyrotechnic setup.
Yeah, I'm sure it has to be. It has to, because it's a controlled burn.
Yeah, and so
like,
it's
oh my
it's so intentional, and it kind of makes me like that scene a lot less, because I thought it was dramatic and I thought it thematically fit with the film.
Yeah.
But if I view it from the outside, and now I'm like, oh man, this is a movie not being aware of what it's even about.
Yeah.
And I like that you guys brought that up, because it's something I never thought of before. Because like I said, I experienced this movie and I am only in the movie the whole time I'm watching it. I don't think about anything else outside of it.
So good at doing that, just sucking you in and playing with your heartstrings, literally sending those gravitational waves through the fifth dimension.
Yeah, there's some bulk being just grabbing my heart, making me want to watch this movie more.
A little piece of Christopher Nolan lives inside all of us.
Right. But that's such a good point to bring up.
A little piece of Christopher Nolan corn.
Yeah. I never thought about that, and you guys brought it up, and I was like, oh God, don't make me not like a part of this movie. I was like, oh, because at first I was like, I think it's visually a cool scene. You see all this smoke in the background, and Tom's gonna go and investigate, and that's Murph's chance to get back in the house, get the watch, and figure out what's going on. And it's all set up. I think, well, it's all this setup payoff in the movie. It's like the watch is set up and it's paid off in this scene. It's done so well that I didn't even have a moment to try and think of like the actual factors outside the movie that were taking place.
Yeah. And even when you break them down, like just thinking about like filming the whole scene of Jessica Chastain like walking around her bedroom, it's like a cheesy CSI, like, oh, let me read the book, oh, it says stay, mess around with the dust, oh, this isn't it. Like, it was just like, when you put all of those shots together as a whole thing, like, wow, this is weird and unnecessary, and what a waste of a great actress on like on a type
I think
scene.
You'd brought it up before that sometimes the score carries the scene, and I think this is a good example of that. The score carries the scene. It's not the best part of this movie, but the score just makes it sound so much. It makes it feel so much more dramatic than it probably is, and it makes you feel when you probably shouldn't. That's just like a good nod to Hans Zimmer creating something that's so good that it can make probably something that should have been bad really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get your guys' problems with that. And now every time I watch this movie, I'm going to be like, why the fuck did they burn the corn? And it actually makes me more mad that he sold it.
Yeah. The selling of it is worse.
Yeah, that's more annoying to me, that it wasn't like,
hey, man, it's America. You capitalize on opportunities you can.
I think that part is... I'd have to rewatch I think that part is filmed in Canada. I think it's a farm in Canada.
Oh, that's way more gross.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fucking corn covered maple syrup and ice hockey.
I know. Someone can comment and tell me I'm wrong.
Someone,
and
please comment.
So after he gets that message out to Murph, then the Tesseract closes, and I just love Tarz. He's like, you did it. Like the bulk beacons are closing the Tesseract. Like we're getting out. And then Cooper's just floating in space. And then he wakes up in a hospital bed. And I kind of love that it just cuts to that. I don't want a whole rescue scene. We've already had dramatic space scenes. I don't think you need it. I like that it just cuts to him in the bed.
Yeah, you do see the lights in the distance when he comes out of the Tesseract. Actually, when he goes back through the wormhole, because that's also in 4D space.
Right. I think there's enough of a nod to the fact that he gets rescued. I'm glad there's not a scene where it's like, get out, he's running out of air. Get him into the hold. Like I like that that's not a scene. This movie does a good job, I think, of not overdoing stuff that doesn't
need to be overdone.
I get, never mind. This movie overdoes a lot of stuff. I'm just glad it didn't overdo that one.
Yeah, it doesn't do it in enough places that it doesn't take away from the overall message and the overall tone and atmosphere. It does it enough. It covers it up with music wherever it does happen.
Yeah, he's woken up out of his hospital bed, and there's the doctor there. He's played by Jeff Hefner. And he's such a small character, but I just love his interactions with Coop. He's like, you're no spring chicken. It's been You're 123 years old.
So 124, but yeah, he's a big.
No. I made a note. It's 123. Okay, leave a comment if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'll bet you $14 that I'm wrong. I just love that he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, you're on Cooper Station." And he's like, "Oh, Cooper." He just said with all of his S's, he's like, "Cooper Station." And he thinks it's named after him. I love that the nurse like chuckles.
Yeah. Like how ridiculous. I think it's dumb that it's not named after him.
It actually kind of would make sense that it is named after him. But I still love like that interaction, that scene. I love that the nurse chuckles and then the doctor's like, this station's named after your daughter.
Yeah. They don't name stations after living people. That's not
also, yeah.
That's not a
I mean, they invented it.
I mean, even
it might be a little.
If I'm not driving around the Tesla Model Musk, like let's be honest.
It might be a little different if you built a station that literally saved humanity. Maybe you get one named after you.
Well,
if
ask Elon if he saved humanity or not.
I'm just saying, maybe you get your name on something that is that big
on a nice plaque above like a park.
Yeah. So there's the setup of the interviews. That some of them are taken from the Dust Bowl. Some of them are old Murph.
Yeah.
Who is played by a character that's shared in our two favorite films.
Yeah, Ellen Burst.
Do you think that it sucks do you think they're living in excess? Do you think they didn't learn anything, Jaden?
I think that Cooper says it himself.
Well, I think he says it like they're.
I don't like. He's like living in the past.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on now, and he's right.
And I do love that. I think
and the whole point is to survive till Brand is ready for.
Yeah, and this is another kind of setup and payoff where they set up Cooper walking past the new kind of Ranger ship that's out, where they can. They're obviously doing some traveling out of these docks, and then there's a payoff later on where he takes one, and I think it pays off even more later on in the movie, and I'll get into that. But I don't know. I didn't have any problem with the Cooper Station scenes. I
think it's stupid human nostalgia. I think
I agree with that. I just think it
fits.
I think it serves itself in the film.
Yeah, I think it fits.
It works. So then I want to move on to the interaction between Murph and Cooper. So she's come out of cryosleep from a different station. She's going to come over to Cooper Station, and I just think this is you said Ellen Burst?
Ellen Burstyn.
Is it Burstyn? Okay. Ellen Burstyn plays old Murph, and she's in like the hospital bed. Cooper walks in and sees her. He's like, it's not like a greeting. It's not like a hug. It's not like anything. He's like, you told him I like farming.
Yeah.
I love that
Which
line.
is great, yeah.
Yeah, I do love that.
And it's obviously like a joke.
And
it's great.
It totally breaks like whatever kind of tension might have been between these characters, because the last time you see Murph is like she's upset with Cooper. She's kind of coming to terms with kind of like how she hasn't talked to him. Then she gets the watch, and now she realizes that Cooper was this ghost, and now she has much more acceptance of like what he did leaving her. And I think it's great that like it's just like warm, loving feelings after that. There's no like dialogue to be like, why did you go? Like I waited for so long, and it's nothing like that. It's just immediately like loving acceptance after that. And I'm so glad it wasn't like any more tension in those scenes. It should have just been a loving, caring moment, and that's what they did.
I loved how it didn't take very long for that moment to happen, or that scene to happen either, because she's like, hey, no father should see, or no parent should see their child die.
Yeah.
She's like, so get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, she's like, I have my family now, and all the family kind of files into the room, and I think that's a great scene too, where he just kind of backs away, and like he's willing to let go, and now he's going to do what he actually wanted to do. He's going to be a pilot. He's going to be an explorer, a pioneer, and there's this like great voiceover by Ellen Burstyn where she's talking about like, Dr. Brand is still out there, like living by the light of a new star on our new home, and she like kind of nudges Cooper in the direction of going to do that instead of staying with her. And I love that. It's a great culmination of Murph's character and Cooper's character, I think.
Yeah.
And still doesn't give a shit about Tom.
I do wish. Again, I think this is.
Is he dead? Like, can you just at least ask something? Like,
it is odd that
give a shit about your son just a little.
This
bit.
is a story about a father and a daughter, but it is kind of odd that like Tom's never brought up again after he has that like recording, and after he has the scenes with Jessica Chastain's rendition of Murph. He's never in the movie again, and I was like, how does Tom never come up? But it doesn't really matter because it doesn't fit the narrative of the movie to have him in it, I guess. Like the movie's about Cooper and Murph.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's fine to me that he's not in it.
I mean, it's okay. It doesn't make you dislike the movie or anything like that. I just think that it's odd that a father would.
It is weird that
he
seems to not care. Like, what happened to Tom, by the way? That's never brought up.
I mean,
it's
obviously
odd.
He's dead.
Yeah, no, I assume so, yeah.
Yeah, he's old as shit. I'm assuming that Coop knows that as well.
It's just odd that it's never
If
brought
he would
up.
have ever even left Earth with her.
Right. It is weird, too, that they said that Murph had been in cryosleep for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I feel like she knew she was going to die, so she's going to go to cryosleep just hoping for Coop to come back. That was kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, too.
That is strange, though, still. But, yeah, I think that's the best explanation of it.
So I want to talk about the biggest like setup and payoff to me is Coop and Tarz kind of like scheme to get one of the ships. Oh, we passed over one of Tarz's best scenes. I think it's like one of Jaden's favorites where he's kind of adjusting and resetting Tarz when they're in the museum. He's living in the house and he's like set humor setting to 75. And he's like
self-destruct sequence beginning and bye or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, 65. He's like knock knock. He's like, want to be 55?
Yeah, I just again that's why I think Tarz and Case are like characters in this. They're not automatons. They're not just ordered around. They're these great characters in it. And I just love the interaction that Cooper has with Tarz. I almost think like Tarz and Cooper have a more fleshed out relationship than Cooper and Murph do.
Oh yeah.
I think that is like so compelling just in and of itself, and it seems like such kind of like throwaway lines between them, but if you like really watch it, you're just like, oh my god, they're like building this real relationship. I think it works really well,
and it's not overstated either. Like
it's not.
It's something that it's the only thing that really isn't melodramatic, but it still is an evolution of a relationship.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that because I think a lot of the kind of build up on Cooper and Dr. Brand's character are very melodramatic scenes that kind of build their relationship. Everything with Tarz is just like feels natural.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I like the arc that Cooper goes through where he's gonna get in the ship and he's gonna fly to Dr. Brand's planet, Dr. Wolf Edmund's planet where Dr. Brand is. And it's so cool because like the movie opens up with him in a ship and he crashes or fails at it, and then it closes where he's not able to like complete what he wanted to do. And then the movie kind of closes with him being in the ship doing what he really wants to do, going on this exploration. It's just this amazing tie-in of beginning to end. His character arc, I think, is started and completed wonderfully. And it's interspliced with like these cuts to Dr. Brand on this like kind of rocky, it looks like Utah or something like that.
Yeah,
it's just really
exactly looks like Utah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she's in Moab. That's essentially what I thought
right?
when I saw the scene.
It's really pretty, but it's also like very stark, and so you know it's going to be like a tough go for them on this planet.
Well, I mean, we have Utah here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we managed.
Yes, that's what I mean. Maybe not all of it is Utah, but
yeah, I just think it's a good way to. Well,
this isn't Star Wars where the whole planet is covered in snow or dirt.
Yeah, I just feel like if there was a better place, maybe she would have landed there, or maybe she just landed where.
Do you not think this is Edmund's planet, right?
It is Edmund's planet.
Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm. And I love Anne Hathaway in that closing scene because she's so sad. Because Wolf is dead. It doesn't explain it, doesn't need to elaborate on it. It's just her emoting on screen. You understand what's happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it had been
3 years, right? Since
100.
It's
right?
it's
Because so they lost 51 years in the slingshot. They lost 23 years in going to Miller's planet, and there's all of the other travel in between there. So it was at least 84. So he was a normal human lifespan.
Yeah, I just think that her presence on screen and what she's doing, you don't need to have a scene where there's like I think you see maybe rocks piled up like it's a grave.
Yeah.
But I'm glad there wasn't like a scene of like her burying him to like, okay, audience, you don't know what happened here. Let me spell it out. I like that it was just her emoting, and I think she does a great job. Like I said, I think Anne Hathaway is great in this movie. And I just love kind of the full circle kind of conclusion of Cooper's character, where he kind of fails in the ship the first time, and now he's in the ship doing what he really wants to do at the end of the movie. I think it's just a great conclusion to this film. And then the voiceover by Ellen Burstyn is amazing. I'm glad they didn't do that Don't Go Quietly into that Dark Knight or whatever poem again. Oh my God. I actually, that is like, that keeps reoccurring in the movie, and I don't like it at all.
Oh, see, I do love it.
Really?
Oh, wow.
It's so
my least favorite thing about
it's like
him
it's
singing it in the
so-
first place. I was like, I don't like this at all.
Like, say it one time, then it's like so obvious. He keeps saying it. Like,
Yeah, and I think he keeps saying it because it's a part of his character, and that's better. It's not so much the point of the film or a thematic thing or a symbol. That's why he keeps saying it. It's something close to him.
I can understand that. I just still think it's overdone. So I want to know I think we've kind of wrapped up kind of the overall narrative of the film. Jane, what's your like final thoughts? What score? How many gargantuas do you give this?
Gargantuas. I mean, it's a visually stunning movie. Great score. I think great character development. There's small plot holes in it that really don't concern me whatsoever.
Right.
It's a little bit nerdy for my taste, which is fine. I still think it's a great movie. I'd give it an 8.2 out of 10.
That's respectable, and,
Yeah.
and again, like this movie just speaks to me because I just love
I'm
love
a big
sci-fi.
fan of the
so-
movie. Like I do like it. I've seen the movie multiple times, and I'll watch it again. Like,
Right.
I'll watch again for personal sake, not just for podcast.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's that. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because I think that's if it's a good movie you can just watch on your own. Then
Yep.
it's not like homework for this. Like
Yeah.
some of our stuff is kind of homework.
Yeah.
We have to watch it. so.
It's weird to call films like I Am Sam homework, because it's like that was not the homework that I was used to.
Yeah. All right, Calvin, what do you think of this movie?
So, to me, it's human insignificance on the landscape of universal wonder. I said something similar like that before, but humans don't mean anything. If we died, and the universe would feel none of it, unblinking, unchanging. And in the face of this nothingness, we struggle, we thrash and kick and scream, calling out for others to share our pain, to share our love, to create, to achieve, to live. When Coop reunites with Murph in the scene with all of the family there, it's just a room of his own legacy, an extension of his reciprocal altruism. It's full of people struggling, college student, expecting couple, an aging farmer, hard partying kid coming into his own, confused divorcee, returning veteran, and then the little girl who went on ahead without him. And it's just so many lives live because of his sacrifice. So you have all of this going on. It's also insignificant, but it's also all of the point. And the film keeps referring to they, and it's like this cosmic reverence to they, like they're gods, but the the they is us and the possibilities of our choices. You know, we can be the progenitors of love and creation, of hope and connection, and we can be the gods we need to be when we finally see ourselves in the people around us. And I think that's what man missed. So it's a 8.4 out of me.
Holy fuck, my review of this, my final thoughts are not even going to come close to what you said. That was amazing. I was like enthralled listening to you. That wow, that's amazing.
It's the new mic system. Well, you're
no, that captured me. I love that.
I know. Well, you're a pretentious artist when you get choked up on your own words.
Like, it warms my heart to see, like, to hear you guys talk about this movie, because I love it so much. So it just makes me feel so warm inside hearing kind of this like reverberating love for this movie.
Yeah, there's so much heart here.
I agree.
And even if some of it is melodramatic, you can feel yourself in it. So
I love that. So to me, this movie, it's first of all, it's placed in a setting that I just love. I love space. I love science fiction. It captures all the science, which I love to see. Every performance I think is good, especially Matthew McConaughey. He embodies his character to me, and he makes the film for me. The score is amazing. It is, like, to me, it's its own character within the film. It's so powerful and it's so poignant, and it embodies a scene. Like, it makes the scene what it is. It also has my favorite scene of all time in it, the tension that builds during the docking scene. I mean, like I said, had me on the edge of my seat. Even kind of if you get to like the weird parts within the black hole, his interaction with the bookshelf, there's so much emotion behind it. I cannot get over this is exactly what I think Christopher Nolan wanted, where it's a story about a father and a daughter, and it's captured so well in this amazing setting. And so this is my favorite movie, so I'm obviously going to give it 10 out of 10.
What? 10 is crazy, man.
I don't know if I've ever watched a 10.
I don't think that there is a 10.
I'm being honest. This is a perfect film to me. While I have problems with it, I guess, so maybe perfect is the wrong word to use. It overcomes all of that with just amazing visuals, amazing sound design.
You're giving no other movie a chance of ever being better than this.
If there's a movie, there's not a movie out now that I think I would ever put above this.
If movies come out in the future.
That's what I'm saying. So this is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Maybe someone in the future can knock this one off right now.
Or at least match it.
Yeah, there's nothing right now. Like I said, like I have second and thirds to this, but they still don't, like, to me, they don't come close to matching this movie. This is a solid number one for me. I think a lot of people will be like, oh, I have like a top three. And I kind of like, this is number one. This is my favorite movie ever made. And I've never experienced anything like it. I recapture the feeling I had every time I watch it, the first time I watched it. Like, I'm always sitting up for the docking scene. I'm always enthralled by the emotional connections that take place. This is, to me, it's as close as you can get to a perfect film. And yeah, this is an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Like not even thinking about it. This is a 10 out of 10.
I don't think I will ever give a movie a 10.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I just have more conviction in this film, I guess. But this is just, I mean, it's easy for me to say this is my favorite film. I compare everything to this. Like, this is the yardstick. Like, this is what every other score I've given is like. I think I give them in their own context. Like, Black Widow, I put in the context of like other Marvel movies, or like if we watch an A24 movie, I put in the context of kind of that like more artsy film. But I still, like, at the end of the day, I compare it to these, and it has the podium. It's at the top. This is easily my favorite film. 10 out of 10, easy.
Wow.
Cool.
All right. Well,
Beautiful.
All right, and with that, we're wrapping this one up. Thanks for joining us on our 3-part review of Interstellar. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube, and SoundCloud. Thanks again for listening to Now This Is Podcasting.